From electric vehicles to fighter jets, critical minerals power the technologies that shape our lives and define national security. But with China tightening export controls on rare earths, the US has begun taking aggressive steps to secure its supply. Now, the current administration has invoked the Defense Production Act to accelerate domestic production and reduce reliance on strategic rivals. Sahar Hafeez is a senior counsel at Pillsbury and co-leads the firm's minerals, metals, and materials supply chains team. A former advisor to the U.S. Department of Commerce and the White House National Security Council, she brings deep insight into the legal, strategic, and economic levers behind America's critical minerals push. Well, Sahar, it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, let's start with the big picture. Why are critical minerals now seen as central to economic and national security? And it's not just defense, but across sectors like energy, telecoms, and transportation. What's behind that?
Yes, it's a great question. You can think of minerals as the building block for all the sectors that you just noted and more. So that's really what's behind it. And as we've seen in recent years, China has implemented export restrictions on a number of these minerals that are used in important applications such as electronics, energy applications, defense. So many of these, and the reason this is a national security issue is that we in the United States and many other countries around the world have significant dependence on these minerals when it comes with respect to China, and particularly in stages of the production value chain.
Which brings us to the move to invoke the Defense Production Act, right? More forcefully to revive that domestic supply you're talking about. From your experience inside the NSC and Commerce, how effective is the DPA in mobilizing private investment for critical minerals? What's your take?
That's a great question. So the DPA has been used for, has the Biden administration used it. As you said, the Trump administration is also using it to support domestic mineral production. In terms of how effective it is, it's definitely an important tool, and it has many provisions. There's supporting, there's funding, there's other authorities within DoD through the Office of Strategic Capital that can support financing. So there's various tools here. So it's definitely an important part of the toolbox. To your question on mobilizing private capital, I think, in my experience, I think one of the things I've observed is that private capital does want to invest in minerals. They may not be exactly looking at the same factors in terms of when they're making an investment as the government is. And that's one area I think there could be more cooperation between government and private capital to look at how to align better on investments that are of strategic importance and the factors that are looked at across, by the government and the private sector.
Now, we've seen the Pentagon back a company recently significantly, with supply deals. A broader question would be, can America realistically build a full rare earth to magnet supply chain in time? Because time is of essence in here, isn't it?
Yeah, as you said, time is of essence. These things do take time. I think we have to think creatively here in terms of, with respect to the challenge that we face. Just to, for 1 second, give a bit of context. One of the things we worked on, I worked on during my time at Commerce was looking at, kind of doing a case study of non-market policies and practices impacting mineral markets. And one of the components of that was looking at the way China has developed its supply chain, the decades of very coordinated efforts it has taken, and rare earths was one example of that, starting in the 1980s. And there's many steps along the way, which I'm happy to get into. But the point is that we are facing, that's sort of what we're sort of behind here, in terms of building up this capability. But that doesn't mean. But I am optimistic that we can do it. There is the momentum there and the will there. We do have some capabilities in terms of that we're developing, in terms of, there's different stages here. There's mining, there's processing, there's magnet production. We are working on all of these.
What catches my eye sometimes is that despite the urgency, the U.S. permitting environmental rules can slow rare earth projects by, some say, nearly a decade. Do you think that the current policy reforms are enough to overcome those structural barriers?
That's a great question. So as you said, it could take 10 years. I've seen longer in some cases. And then in other countries with similar sort of environmental standards, the time frame is much more condensed. So it is a particular challenge. I mean, the Trump administration has made some efforts in terms of putting some of these projects up for streamlined permitting through Fast 41. And then there have been some efforts to rescind the NEPA regulations, and then the agencies will look at implementing their own. So there has been a push to streamline some of these processes. And then I will also say that the Supreme Court issued a decision sort of narrowing the scope of review under NEPA, which would streamline some of the environmental impact assessments that are that take place under NEPA. So you may see some of these moving faster. But I will underscore it's very important for Congress to act as well for permitting reform, which would have a meaningful impact. One of the things is the judicial review of some of these permitting processes and the length of time it can take. So streamlining that will be important through legislative action as well.
Well, thank you very much for those insights. Sahar Hafeez is a senior counsel at Pillsbury. Sahar, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.